Welcome, my friends, to Rudy's Roundtable to have a very special guest here. He is a Toastmaster, and not just a Toastmaster. When I joined Toastmasters, he was Toastmasters president, a great friend, I believe the reincarnation of Matthew McConaughey with the chillest vibes, my friend, Will Glass. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Rudy. I appreciate it. I appreciate good compliments as well.
Hey, thank you. I did a quick kind of recap on how we've had some cool memories along the way so far.
Yeah.
You actually introduced me to John Magic at the Magic location here.
Yeah.
As well as you went to the Magic show I hosted, the Roundtable. And then you also invited me to do Magic at UT at a tailgate.
I did, yeah.
There.
Yeah.
So I just have to thank you for connecting me with
Of course.
all the Austin scene here.
Yeah. Does the audience know who John Magic is?
I don't think they know, but now they do. Check out johnmagic.com.
Yeah, that's part of my grand plan in my life is to connect people where they need to be connected to. You know, if I see an opportunity, I'm going to connect them.
Well, that's one of the coolest things I recognize in first meeting you, because I first met you. Please correct if I'm wrong, at the Toastmasters meeting while you were a president.
Although I do feel like I met you on Rainy Street one night, probably about 7 years ago.
There's probably that.
Because I saw you, I'm like, I've seen that guy before. I don't know where, but yeah.
We definitely
doing magic.
We definitely reconnected on Rainy Street, though.
We did.
You had like a friend coming in from out of town for like a bachelor party.
I did, yeah. The bachelor.
What was that?
It was one of my good buddies, PJ, who does not know the story still of this day. He's an incredibly smart guy. Like, he's a doctor now, but his brain works, and like, if he can't figure out a problem, he's gonna get frustrated. Like next level type smart. Gotcha. So I'm like, how do I fool this guy? And so obviously magic. Oh, Rudy's gonna be on Rainy Street possibly. Yeah. So I texted you a bunch of information about his life. And then we happened to walk by you on Rainy Street when we were out that night, and the rest is history.
Dude,
you got him.
Coolest
you blew
moments.
his mind, yeah.
It was legit impossible. Like he's probably still thinking like, because I think I guessed the city he was from or something like that.
Right.
Just happened to tell me, before. I just ingenious.
It works out.
I want to know about your story, know more about your history here in Austin. So let's start. Just the common point between you and I is, of course, Toastmasters. So tell me a little bit about first how you got started with Toastmasters, how you got interested. What was that first steps like?
I've known since I graduated college in 2013 with the somewhat entrepreneur style that I have developed over those years that I would need public speaking in my life. And honestly, the thing that switched my mind the most was I study the people that are really intriguing to me. One of those people is Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett said that the only award that he has on his desk is his Public Speaking Achievement Award. Out of all the awards he's gotten, that is the one that he keeps. And so I recognize that even if I never become Warren Buffett one day, like that must be a pretty impactful thing on someone's life. And so I was interested in public speaking, but I didn't know where to go or how to start. And I was having a conversation with one of the guys that I worked with at the time, my dear friend Wally. We were riding in the truck back from Mason, Texas, doing some distillery work. And I was talking to him about this, and he's like, "Well, I got to tell you about my brother-in-law." When I started asking about public speaking, he's like, "I got to tell you about my brother-in-law." Long story short, his brother-in-law had been in jail for this wild crime for like the past 15 years. And he was trying to get out, and he was trying to better his life. And he started doing Toastmasters while he was in prison, and it changed his life. He started giving speeches not only to the people at prison, but when he eventually got out of prison, he was giving speeches to colleges just about how to properly live your life and avoid jail, blah, blah, blah. And that inspired me to Google search Toastmasters in Austin. And obviously, as you know, the first one that comes up on the Google search is Austin Toastmasters.
So it's thanks to the prison system that you're actually right.
That's exactly right.
Dude, what a story. Now, do you remember about how old you were whenever you first joined Toastmasters?
It was a little over 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. After college, so I would have been 25 or 26. Yeah.
And in your first kind of, couple meetings, like, did it right away grab your attention, or was it something where you had to, warm up to it?
Build into it. Just like anything in life, everything takes practice. And I went for like 2 meetings, and then I came home and I was trying to make every excuse not to go back. And I was just like, man, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But also my brain is trained to know that hard things don't necessarily mean, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It means that you need to work harder on them to achieve where you're trying to go. And so I kept going and kept signing up for the smaller roles like Vote Counter and Video Guru, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually gave my icebreaker and just ran with it. There was definitely a switch that went off in my head. I was thinking, this is the path that I need to go down.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I'm always so curious about, well, first, how people even hear about Toastmasters, and then how they eventually build up, that courage to take that first speech.
Yeah.
And eventually just their impact. So for you, across the time in Toastmasters now, about 3 years, how is being part of it, or recognizing the importance of public speaking, how has that impacted you in your life?
I would say that when I describe Toastmasters to someone, especially how it affects me, there was my life before I joined it, and there was my life after I joined it. There was that much of an impact. It not only gives you public speaking knowledge, but it excelled what I already knew in leadership, and it gives you a form of self-confidence that I did not know existed at that time. To be able to communicate ideas to a large group of people efficiently is one of the most powerful things in my mind that I believe you can do. And so I've utilized that in the business world of everything that I've learned within our class.
So I want to go into the business section in a minute, but tell me a little bit about, because most people, when they join any organization, will almost always just say a member. It's always that small 10%, 20% that takes that step to be a leadership role.
Yeah.
Did someone inspire you, or what switched in your head to decide to go for president?
Okay, I will say that my leadership style has always been one of taking charge if nothing else is being done. And I'm not saying in this case nothing else is being done. I just feel the responsibility, and I'm comfortable with the responsibility of being able to manage other people. And so I started off in the sergeant at arms role, which is the lower end of the officer roles within our Toastmasters Club. And then I went on to become the vice president of public relations, thinking, and while these are two different terms, our terms are in 6 months. And so I was able to see two different presidents as well, like how they interacted, and just visualizing, like, what would I do in this situation? Maybe it'd be different, maybe not. And I felt prepared at that point, being an officer for basically a year before that, to at least run for president.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, there's so you literally start from the bottom, now you're here, right?
Yeah.
There's a great quote. This might be a little too intense for Toastmasters. I can't remember if it was Seneca or it's one of these old school Stoics, but something like, the price to pay of not being involved in politics is to be ruled by lesser people. And I'm just like, it's a very, it's pretty intense, but I'm like, I don't know if that applies just to a Toastmasters club.
Yeah.
But the power, though, inside of a Toastmasters organization, the fact that it really can change people's lives, I'm just being a part of it as well, and just seeing it here, people who give that first step, give that first speech, you just see their eyes light up, and just, it gives, like you were saying, that self-confidence.
Yeah, I can't get enough of that, dude. I feed off other people's energy, negatively or positively. And so seeing the people that go up there for the first time and give their icebreakers, I'm like, I want more of that. Yeah. It feels like a drug.
Yeah, and I find myself, even when, so I'm a big fan of sending voice messages instead of text messages, and I find myself even self-counting ahs, ums, and everything when I'm sending the voice memos.
Yeah.
So that can be maybe a little too much, but but you mentioned before too that the public speaking has helped you a lot in communicating ideas, especially in the business world. So give me a little bit about, because you have such a unique experience here that I'm fascinated with whiskey distillery. So how did this journey begin? How did you get into this world?
It which we can touch on this portion next, but it started off through the network that I utilized from being a swimmer at UT. And when I graduated at the University of Texas, I reached out to one of the former swimmers, who's about 15 years older than me, that I knew had a whiskey distillery. And I was like, hey, I don't know what I want to do. I don't have a plan. I know how to work hard, and I'm open to learning. Can I come work for you? And he's done a lot of cool stuff. He's run marketing at AS Roma over in Europe. He has worked for Octagon. He managed Michael Phelps as his agent. He's done a lot of cool things that were abnormal to the typical 9-to-5 that you do right out of college. And so when I went and worked for him, I started to listen and just observe different interactions that not only him, but the whole people in the company had and how it operated. And I learned early on the business side of things in the startup world. And that is a lot different than getting out and going and getting a finance job right out of college. I was just drinking from a fire hose.
Like the actual applicable, like real world stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like actually how do you grow a business? What is a brand? How do you get in front of people? And then how do you sell it? That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, so then let's backtrack this. So you said, of course, there's this whole segment of your life with the UT and specifically University of Texas and specifically swimming. So I'm curious, before we go more into the business, take me back a little bit about when did you start swimming? How did that happen? And then how did you get to the competitive state?
I started swimming when I was between 5 and 6 years old, is my guess. My older sister, who is 3 years older than me, she was doing it, and I was I just followed her everywhere I went. Yeah. And so I ended up being at the pool a lot. But at 5 years old, I didn't know what I was doing, and then right around the time I was like 8 or 9, it became a little bit more serious. My sister and I were both pretty decent at what we were doing, and so I told my mom, hey, we should probably put them on a club team. And I grew up in Alabama. This is back home with my family. And so we did it. We swam all the way through high school. And it was really, I learned a lot during those years as I was developing. When my other friends that weren't doing sports went off and partied on the weekends, I didn't always get to do that, which at the time felt very frustrating. But also at the time, I learned this form of discipline that I cannot be more thankful for, because I can utilize that now. And so I graduated high school in 2013. I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to UT here in Austin, which moved me from Alabama to Austin, Texas at 18 years old. Bright-eyed. What is going on here?
That's a shift, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming from Alabama to here. What was that shift like in your life?
It was unique, and I'm so thankful for it. I love my hometown in Mobile, and I love Alabama. There is, in people's minds that are not from Alabama, they have this stereotype of what being from the South is like. And that has always frustrated me, because the people that I know where I'm from are wholesome people, and they care about everyone they meet. Genuinely, they'll take you in, they'll feed you, and you stay with them as long as you want. So going from this Southern culture in Mobile and moving to Austin, Texas is different. I would say this is more of a liberal style town. And over the next few years after that, I felt like my cultures blended perfectly together. It's like this comforting Southern culture style attitude and this free thinking style attitude, mixed together is to me the perfect combo.
Yeah. And also so this is just me speaking from Sherman, which is a small town.
Exactly.
North Texas.
You get it. Yeah.
Is Mobile small? I don't know.
There's 150,000 people, 200,000 people. It's not tiny, but it's not, there's no big cities in Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah. Any universities in Mobile?
South Alabama is in Mobile.
South Alabama. Okay.
Yeah. Which is a growing college.
Gotcha.
I would say they have 20,000 students now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that shift, at least for me, right, small town 30, 40,000 to here. Well, I had Denton in between, but I mean, Austin's $1 million on something plus.
Yeah, totally.
And then just it being such a mecca with UT and then all the different industries and all the big companies. It's a shift. And there is a shift where it's so unique because it does have that Texan love and hospitality, but also, progressive new ideas. And that's all. It keeps it fresh.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
Now, so in competing with you, because I like to stay in shape, but I'm not an athlete. I never did competitive sports like that.
Yeah.
What was that like being in athletics throughout UT here?
Yeah. The University of Texas is the standard for all athletic programs in the country.
Wow.
And coming here, you cannot have an ego no matter how good you are, because there's going to be somebody that's better than you. And the people that are better than you are winning gold medals in the Olympics. Wow. And so getting here, it was an automatic attitude change of learning how to be a better teammate, how to work hard, how to stay disciplined, how to also do well in school, because you are a student athlete. You're not just an athlete. And our coaches really, really instilled that in us. They were the most phenomenal coaches I've ever had, and I would argue the best coaches of all time in the sport of swimming, maybe even out of the sport of swimming. And the unique thing about the UT men's swim and dive team is that before this past year, we've had the same 2 swim coaches for 46 years.
Wow.
Sounds about right.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the guys that swam in the 70s and 80s had the same coach that I had. And the network that we have is able to connect through that in itself. Mm-hmm. It's really special.
Yeah, because, man, yeah, having those pillars, so to speak, like that, just connect everyone there.
Yeah.
What, in the sense of the competitiveness, I actually don't know, what, did you compete in a specific style of swimming, or I don't know what the categories are?
Yeah, so you have 4 different strokes: butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle, different lengths each time, and I swam butterfly and backstroke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so using that as a launch point, right? Then you get connected through the network to the business aspect.
Yeah.
So then from there, how do you then go to the whiskey section of your life? How do you get to that portion?
So I'm starting to work for this whiskey company in 9-banded whiskey in 2017. Right around then, 2017-ish, 2018-ish, I don't remember. And I was just executive assistant, like ears tuned in to everything I'm hearing, just listening, taking in information for about a year. And then I had a meeting with my boss, and he was like, "Hey, this is good, but you don't really have a job. like you are working, but you need to focus on something in this." Yeah. And at that time, a position opened up within the distillery that we were running. And it was just like, "Hey, come help out when you can come help out." So I was like, "Oh, yeah, anything I can do to get more work, because I also have to make money." And so I went there, and I had a really great boss over there that I learned everything from. Just like that, I love to get my hands dirty and build things and like see things come to life. And getting to learn that process of crafting a bottle of whatever is freaking cool. And so for the next year and a half, I learned that process.
Wow.
And then that boss left. I'm like, okay, well, no one else can do this, so I guess I'm going to end up doing this, which I did. And I was at that point technically the distillery manager and the master blender.
Wow.
Which was cool.
Just kind of difference. Actually, I don't know, right? What's the difference between those responsibilities?
Distillery manager is more of like the operations side of things, just like making sure everything is being bottled and sent out at the same time. Mm-hmm. The master blender is the one. It's taste testing everything to make sure that your quality is there consistently over time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Kind of like quality assurance, making sure the product lives up to the brand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So first, just so dope that, because I'm a huge believer in apprenticeships, right? Like I love college and masters and all these programs, but I do believe that actual real world experience is incomparable, right?
It
so
is.
The year long where you're an executive assistant sounds a lot like an apprenticeship as far as like being next to the main person, right?
Absolutely.
Seeing the ins and outs of that. And then props to you for stepping up to that role, because it must have been a little daunting, just
for sure.
I got to take up all this. What was that, stepping into that?
I've never been one to say no to an experience that can potentially benefit me. And so I'm also fine being humbled and being told I don't know what I'm doing, as long as I can learn the skill, and the person that is supposed to be teaching me is actually teaching me. So honestly, it wasn't frightening at the time. Mm-hmm. I was open to it.
Man, and so about how long did you do that now, and where are you now? So, because I want to know more about the entrepreneurial side, the next venture that you also launched.
Okay, this is fun. It gets fun. It gets really interesting here. Things start to come together. Mm-hmm. So that was in 2019, and then COVID came, and the alcohol sales went up. People were drinking more.
Oh yeah,
we had a job. Like it was all good, man. It was all good. And then so distillery manager, master blender from like 2019 to 2022. Mm-hmm. And at that point, one of my best friends, who was also my boss at the time, who was the director of operations, he left to take another operations job to run a beer company up in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And they needed to fill that role, which I eventually stepped into. So I kept like executive assistant and distillery manager, and then director of spirits was my title after that, which is kind of like an overarching, cool. Like I requested it too. I was like, well, I had another buddy at another distillery that had that title, and I was like, that's all encompassing.
Yeah, it sounds like a little spooky, like spirits, but also like spirits, like
right. Yeah. It's to be interpreted, which is how I live my life. And
that's a good quote. That's
a quote. So I moved into that role, which is more of the operations planning style of things. And what I mean by that, like, if I know that I have to produce 20,000 bottles of whiskey over the next 6 months, like, we order glass from Mexico, we order tamps, which are the slides on the top. Those come from Italy. And so you have to manage the vendor relationships and then make sure everything is on time, because everything arrives like maybe that's 2 months. The glass might be 3 weeks. You can't buy too much of that. So a lot of what I learned at that point was like planning out future expenses.
Managing inventory as well, like how much you have in, Totally.
Yeah. And then running like tax information on distilled spirits, which is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, I didn't think about that too. Yeah.
Yeah. In each different state that you're in too, because every state has different tax laws.
So do you have to keep up, with the whiskey sold in Mississippi or like Missouri, like with the revenue and everything from there?
Totally. Yeah, we have spreadsheets that track all of that. Yeah.
Just a little fun side note. Did you ever like play video games growing up? Or,
I did.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you? I'm curious because there are. This kind of sounds like some games where it's like you manage a business or you manage a battalion, right? Like more strategic, tactical games.
Yeah.
What video games did you gravitate towards growing up?
Growing up, a lot sports games, NCAA football, FIFA, like staring at the soccer thing. But also first-person shooters.
Oh yeah,
Halo, Call of Duty. Yeah. And man, anything, and I'm still doing it.
I love it. I'm a huge gamer, so I always have to ask that question.
Cool.
Because our interests reflect, I think, our talents or hobbies, I think, as well, right?
Are you a computer gamer?
I do both. So for the longest time, I was console, right? So grew up on like the original Super Nintendo, SNES, then PlayStation 2, 3, like that whole thing. And then I think the last one I had was a PlayStation 4, but then I took it upon myself to learn how to build computers, and so I built my own computer.
I noticed right there.
So I built a ton and failed a ton. Like I put that together, turned it on, and it just wouldn't turn on. Just dead, right? And I mean, just because I love the idea of customizability, right? And in a computer, you can fully modify it, customize it. It's essentially my love for a computer would be what a lot of guys have for cars, right? Like modding and like customizing cars. It's a similar core instinct, right? And just the reward, I think, of just making your own little thing. And then I'm now learning only in the past month doing the mouse and keyboard.
Oh, cool.
I still always play the controller.
Yeah.
On it,
yeah. The mouse and keyboard must be fast.
Dude, it's a whole new thing. Yeah. But tell me me more. So then you director of spirits, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Pandemic
2022.
Hits, 2022, right?
Yeah.
Bring us up to speed between then and now.
Okay. At that point, I was reached out to by a tequila company that we work with. And they were like, hey, Will, we need hypothetically 200 empty bourbon barrels to be sent down to Mexico to age tequila in. Because when you're making tequila, you have Blanco tequila, which looks like this cup of water, but you also have Reposado tequila, which might look a little bit darker. The reason is because they're aging them in empty bourbon barrels.
I did not know this. Okay.
And around COVID, Scotland, who makes not Irish whiskey, Scotch, but also Ireland, who makes Irish whiskey, they also age in empty bourbon barrels. And they basically said, hey, we're going to buy up all of the supply because we don't know what's going to happen to the market. So those two countries bought up a ton of empty bourbon barrels, which left the market, like Mexico, which eventually I learned other parts of Europe and also Asia are like super in need of empty bourbon barrels.
Wow.
So when this tequila company reached out to me, I was like, yeah, dude, I don't have 200. I might have like 5 in the back of my warehouse. But then the entrepreneurial mindset set in and I'm like, hold on. Okay. I don't have that, but I do know like 10 other distillers within an hour and a half of here. And I know they have barrels in the back of their warehouse. So I'm going to buy all of those and then send to Mexico as many as I can possibly get. So I was like, I had like no money. I was just starting to like buy all these barrels and I brought them into Austin and I don't know, I ended up with like 60 or 80. He's like, I'll just take whatever you got.
Wow.
And so I made that first transaction and made some cash. And I was like, that was like relatively easy. Like the easiest money I've ever made in my life, kind of. Like it was and this is definitely the word arbitrage, when you buy something for cheaper than sell it for higher. That's what this is. And so I was like, I can figure this out. There has to be more people like this tequila distillery down in Mexico. So for the past 2 years since then, I have been buying empty bourbon barrels from all over the United States and then exporting them to now Canada, Mexico, Europe, and parts of Asia.
Dude,
Yeah.
First, congrats on that. Epic.
Yeah.
So first, so because what a way first to recognize a problem, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really all what entrepreneurship and just a business is, right? We're just solving problems, and you recognize that when this is a pretty big problem, so the opportunity is pretty big, right?
Yeah.
What had you done any other? Because obviously you told us a little bit about like the business ventures, but had you done any other entrepreneurial ventures before, or any history of entrepreneurship before?
Yes, officially maybe not. I did like some apparel stuff a few years ago, which was fun. It was good. It was a good hit, but I also know that you should try things. Originally, like shoot your shot pretty wide, whatever sticks, run with it. I'm also not of the mindset you need to be doing like 5 different things at once.
Yeah.
If you can focus all of your time on one thing a lot longer than anybody else, you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of time that you put into it, similar to Toastmasters. Yeah.
Dude, what? Okay, so I just love this. Really like you honed in, you specialized on something, and just like exploded it like in the best way.
Yeah.
And so now, so now it's become like your full-time thing, or
it is. So we're stepping away from the whiskey company as of last Friday, and I am now running this business full time, which is so freeing, man. And like, I can talk about like the business side of things, but I also want to talk about like having the mindfulness to be able to create whatever you want to do in your life. I don't have my phone's in my bag over there, but I was in Mexico a few months ago and I took a picture on the beach. It was like the morning, which is like my favorite time of day. Like first thing in the morning, I'm drinking a cup of coffee, watching these waves come in. And I wrote on the picture, which I figured out you can do, like type on there. And you can create your own reality on that picture. And it's the background on my phone. And that is such a reminder with everything that I'm doing in my life that if you want something, you can go get it. You might have to go through some uncomfortableness along the way, which is totally normal and totally fine. But anything is possible if you set your mind to it.
Dude, what an inspiration there, for real. And the fact that you've gone through it, because, so a lot of thoughts here. So first, tell me more about, who Will was a couple years ago, and then in this process becoming this entrepreneur, becoming this person with this mindset and vision. What was that personal transformation like? Yeah,
I felt like right after college, I had all this experience competing at an extremely high level, and I had some built up potential that I didn't have an outlet for. And I've always been a creative person, but I'm learning over the past 15 years which creative outlets that is best to be served in. So I felt like I had this built up stuff right after college and I didn't know what to do with it. And it was very frustrating, but I knew that I didn't want to go get the typical 9-to-5 job. It was like, that's going to be my number one thing. It was like, as long as I don't do that, I can make no money and just like chill, work hard. There's a difference between not having the motivation and not having the 9-to-5 versus having the motivation and like trying to build something for your life. And I have just incredible passion around people doing what they want to do and feeling fulfilled along the way. So I've seen a lot of my friends too, they'll get in a rut or just stuck in a job along the way and they don't necessarily know how to get out of it, but it's everyone goes through that. You just have to see your own potential. And so you asked me who I am. I want to be, and I strive to be the person that helps people see the potential that they have in their life. Yeah, kind of went a few different ways there.
Yeah, you arrived at a great point. Yeah. You arrived at ATX Airport. That's I think that's super important. And also, at least in my experience, also doing entrepreneurship, I don't think everyone is meant to do it or has the structural framework, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that they're not capable of great things. Like some people,
100%.
There's like intrapreneurs, right? Which is like for someone who has like the entrepreneur spirit, but within a company. And so they're like, okay, let me help build this to the next level, right? Or there's just different capacities, right? So I'm glad that you found your way to this and were able to really take that step, because it is, it's daunting. It can sometimes be a lack of knowledge, right? Just not
Yeah.
knowing.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you're like, I want to get there, but how do I get there? Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm very glad that the things both lined up, and then you also stepped up to the opportunity to make it happen.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's been a great time, but uncomfortable along the way. You have to have some type of risk tolerance. If you don't have a risk tolerance, it's not for you.
Yeah.
You got to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable, which Toastmasters has taught me that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
I'm always amazed, man, that the two greatest fears, the most common fears, are fear of heights and fear of public speaking, right, which you well know. And I always compare Toastmasters to the equivalent of people that are afraid of heights skydiving every week.
Yes.
That's essentially like the same caliber of what, maybe a little exaggerated, but at least what's going
exposure
on emotionally.
therapy.
Yeah. Because people will go up there and and I had it too when I was starting up, like just like sweating or just being so nervous. I don't know what to say. I mean, it can be daunting, but I think it also helps that it is a safe environment to grow and everyone is there to help and improve.
Yeah.
But when you're doing entrepreneurship, there's not that comfort.
No, dude, 95% of the time it's uncomfortable. That's what I've realized. Like I'm working, and of the 30 days that I'm like, oh my God, why am I even doing this? Then there's one day where it's exceptional, and I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's also difficult just because I got a chance to work both in like corporate America, and then entrepreneurship, right? And when you're in a corporate environment, like your boss or your supervisor tells you, hey, do these 10 things. This is your role. Got it. You can just knock them out. But when you're doing your own thing, as we all know, you have to make your own list. And you don't even know if that list is really what. No. You're like, I think this is what.
You have to make decisions. And you have to trust yourself that those decisions are the best educated guess that you can get.
Yeah.
But you don't know the outcome. Everything can fail, but it's fun along the way.
Yeah. So, and a big part of this is staying organized, right?
Yes.
And I know that you have your notebook here with you. I believe you carry it with you pretty often.
My notebook goes everywhere I go. It's on my person's.
I love it. Can you tell me your journey with writing, with staying organized with a notebook? What's the notebook story here?
The notebook, I have a briefcase or a backpack that goes with me everywhere too, which has really turned into like a mobile office and just like bring it, I can set up. I know exactly what I need. The notebook is the number one thing in there. I write down my schedule, what my meetings are, what my plans are for the day. I cross them off as I go through them every single day. The most important one on there is to work out. It's on there every I go 2 days on, 1 day off. Yeah. And
morning, evening. What are you?
I'm a morning guy.
Morning.
Yeah. If it doesn't work out in the morning, it's going to be really difficult to. Yeah, I wake up at like 5:30 or 6 and just go. It's got to be the first thing. So I write. Everything gets written down in the journal. Ideas, thoughts, letters, schedules, whatever it is. And I've gone through like 4 or 5, probably like of different sizes, but like that thickness. Interesting. When I went through my first 2, and I was looking. This is like sort of my crazy weird personality, but I let things come to me, and when they arrive, I don't say no to them. And then my second journal was ending, and it was probably the same size as this, which is like as big as my hand. And I found this other journal that wasn't used yet. I don't remember where I got it, but it came to me in my life. But the journal was that wide and that tall. And I was sweating at that time because I'm also not one to like go return. Like I'm going to see it through. I'm going to write in this thing. And what I realized over the next month of using this small journal was that it forced me to be concise with my thoughts. Like you flip through some of this, I've just got like words, like junk. But when you have a small journal, you have to really think about what you're writing down. Yeah. And so part of that is cutting away all the unimportant things that you have in your life on a day-to-day basis and only focusing on what you need to do. And of course, my bookmarks in here are. Yeah. I rotate them. When I get a new one of these are our awards. Yeah. In our Toastmaster class, which is just like a perfect reminder. Like that's why I do what I do. You know,
dude. What a great. I think it might have been Jordan Peterson that said something along the lines of writing is focused speech. Where when we talk, we tend to use a ton of extra words, but when you write, especially having a physical limitation of, and challenging yourself, no, I'm going to fit this idea in just this line or just these couple lines. It really does force you to think, okay, how do I actually, really, what do I really want to say? And it focuses you to focus.
It does. Yeah.
Man. What, Do you find yourself writing just throughout the day? Is it a thing where like at night you like do a recap? Is it like a personal journal as well?
Yeah.
Is it more like business side?
I would say this is a mix of both personal and business. Yeah. I also, on my laptop, I have a Google Doc that I do my actual writings on, which are a bunch of short stories. And those are fiction and nonfiction. But in this specific journal, yeah, it's business and personal notes, life lessons, things to do better, just quotes I hear throughout the day, people I meet. I've got a tab on my phone of names. If I meet someone new, they go in the name bucket immediately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that one came from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you read that book?
Yeah, Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah.
Yeah.
The number one thing in life is remembering someone's name. If you want to be someone's friend, if you want someone to work with you, if you want, this sounds that it sounds selfish in a way, but it's not. If you want somebody to remember you, the only thing you have to do is remember their name. Yeah. The first thing you have to do is remember their name.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing.
No, that's very spot on. So you have two qualities that I think are really important to highlight here. So, and this is something I actually learned I picked up on pretty early on in your presidency, because just going to the different meetings. One is that you're not a pretentious person, but you still have a lot of self-confidence. And I think that's so important and so rare today. So I just know that is something I value as a friend in you.
Yeah.
And the other dude is just your chillness, man. So I'm very much like an energizer bunny. I have so much, but you have that same energy, but in a different way. Where do you feel that and this is why I do the Matthew McConaughey comment before, just because like it's very much like in the flow of life, chill vibe. Where does that come from? Have you always had that? I don't know, a family member might have that too. What's that like?
I'm going to root it all to learning meditation at the age of 13 or 14.
Whoa.
And that was done by two different swim coaches that I had. One was my coach, Greg, who taught us meditation, visualization. We want to achieve something in 6 months, such as swimming a race. Visualize yourself before, during, and after that race. How does it feel? Blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to Jacksonville, Florida for a few months over the summer to go train at a school called Bowles for their swim program. And the coach there is named Sergio. He blew my mind with the meditations that we learned there. It took it to a next level. It was laying in this dark room, everyone has their eyes closed, breathing in positive energy, letting out negative energy, but associating colors with that. So like breathing in colors of the rainbow, expelling dark, gray, black colors. And this was done over 20 minutes. And then we would get into our visualizations. But I would say my relative calmness and sense of just being present in this moment is from meditation. It is something that I've always utilized, no matter not just swimming, but just life every single day. Does that answer your question? I don't remember the original question.
Even if it didn't, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's just a cool response overall, man. Like, there's no pass fail here.
Okay, cool. Judging myself.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating. Yeah. So this is something so fascinating because just in my experience, right, with like religion and spirituality and like that whole world, meditation is, especially when you have the visualization aspect of it, is very much just, it's another form of prayer, I would say, or it can be in certain circumstances, right? Because when people pray, they have just like the set outcome, right? Now it's a weird thing of like asking, receiving, right?
Yeah.
But some people that when they do meditation, they like ask in a sense, like the universe or whatever the entity is. Now, and this is also a thing with, I think Tony Robbins does this when he does some consultations where he'll have, you might have heard this experiment where they had a basketball team. He comes in, they have, let's say, 10 players shoot 100 free throws. They have another 10 players not do anything. And then they have another 10 players just visualize the perfect free throw over and over and over again, right? And then at the end, they do like an exercise, they run through it. And I believe that the ones who scored the best were actually the ones who visualized it over and over and over. Like, it was a crazy study, right? And I do need to verify it. It's on the internet, so I was like, is it true, right? But I've heard it so many times that it's like, I think it has something.
There's got to be value to that.
Something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many people talk about visualizing something? And I don't know how off the deep end you want to go, but I'll go there. I'll jump off this one. I have this idea where think of it like a multiverse, right? So you have a bunch of bubbles right next to each other. When you have a set goal or a set intention or like visualization, it's not only that you're creating a reality, is that you're actually navigating to that reality. So let's say we're like 10 bubbles away. So if you don't, like, depending on the strength of your conviction is how quickly you will navigate to, like, physically navigate to it, right? And if it's a pretty loose conviction, it's going to take longer. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why some people, when they have it so clear in mind, like that clarity and focus, can so quickly achieve something.
It can. I fully believe what you're saying.
I know.
And I found it to be true.
And you mentioned before, it's different, focusing on 5 different things.
Yeah.
Aside from, I don't know if it is your sole focus right now with the business, any other focuses in your life right now that you dedicate time to or appreciate?
Besides Toastmasters, yeah, there is. I am on this journey to not have a full-time lease for at least 1 year.
Okay.
And that which is a weird, in your mind might be a weird focus. When I say lease, like a physical house to live in. I was living in this house for a year. It was too much space, too much overhead, blah, blah, blah. I got stuck in this lease. And right around that time, I've been like going through this cycle of also trying to focus on doing what I want to do with my life through my business and being open to all these experiences. And it's the openness that I have found when I let go of trying to control situations, things come to me and they literally out of nowhere will show up. And so now, which sounds wacko because I don't have a house.
Please, yeah.
But what I'm doing this year is I'm not signing a lease. I'm living in places when opportunities arise. Right now I'm dog sitting for Nami, who's in our class.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Shout out Nami. After this, I'm going to my friend Preston's house, and then I'm going to Alabama to see my mom for a week or two, and then I have an opportunity to live in another place near downtown. But the unexpected is what I'm chasing. It's the uncomfortableness, and then it's figuring out how can I operate what I'm doing, being what society would call uncomfortable. But what I've realized is like I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Let's go.
Yeah, I let go of things. I sold most of the things that I own and put the rest in a storage unit.
Yeah, I was about to ask like the logistical as far as like physical objects, like what are like clothes, right? Like how does that function?
I got rid of most things, a lot of clothes, but I've got 2 bags that go with me. I bring my espresso machine wherever I go, and then I have like this lamp that changes colors that goes with me.
That's
too.
cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Like, why not the lamp?
Dude.
So yeah, I'm letting these opportunities come about and not controlling the situation, just like I did with work, and see where it goes. Yeah.
Man, okay, so huge props for doing that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that, man. I fuck with that.
Yeah.
And I guess always, if worst comes to worst, you can always sleep in your car too. I mean,
Dude, I've got a bed and I've got a camper set up.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. So first, have you been? I'm guessing you've been asking, right, for a place to stay, like whether figuratively or to the universe or for people. Has that been a thing? Like
to the universe I have.
Right. Like in a sense of, you'll receive things you don't ask for too, but you do get what you ask for sometimes.
You do,
right?
Yeah.
So that's cool that it's being like answered in different ways through different people.
Oh, and it's random too. It's like,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I got 2 days here, okay, 3 days, like just whatever.
Right. I'm bouncing around.
Man, this is a reflection of that, like that, the absence of pretension, which would be, I guess, maybe the presence of humility, something like that.
Yeah.
And just being willing to just, I think I mentioned this in the speech I gave the other day, where regardless of anyone's present circumstance, like I'm still me, right? And you're still you, regardless if you're dressed up in a 3-piece suit or if you're just, like chilling at home. It reminds me a lot when I was in the monastery, one of the exercises they had us do, I never got a chance to do this. I wasn't in it long enough, but when you're like a year in, they'll take, so we were in the capital city of Bogota. Yeah. And they give you just a round trip bus ticket to a neighboring city. Okay. And you have to, like, they don't tell anyone, you just have to go to like survive. And so you get there, and so you have to survive a week, and all you know is like the bus ticket back. So you have to find a place to stay, a place to eat, off the charity of people, right? And hundreds of
fair. Yeah.
monks and seminarians do this. So this exercise, like, it really is very doable. And I take great inspiration from one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Where his whole vibe is just, I'm just here, like, there's this quote of, like, wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah.
Or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
And it truly is the idea of just letting go. And just,
It is, man.
I'm just here for the ride.
Just accept whatever comes your way. Some of it's going to be negative,
Yeah.
but it's just being comfortable with being negative.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. A lot of it's not negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, so how long ago did you start this? And you said, I guess, would there be like an end point? I said, like, for the year?
End point, yeah.
Like-
End of January was my lease last year. And I will say, my idea came this way because I had a few extra bedrooms in my house, and I was on the other end of this. I was the one subleasing out rooms to anybody that would
Just
come and live with me,
hey,
please.
you'll pay. Come on.
And I met the freaking coolest people out there, which I could go on a whole rant about the different roommates that I had last year.
Yeah.
But I did realize I'm on the wrong side of this equation. I'm the one stuck in the lease. I'm the one, whether they're here or not, I've got to pay this bill.
Yeah.
And I saw the potential. I had one roommate, his name's Jeremy. He has his own business. He could work from wherever. And he was just bouncing around. He's like, dude, you don't need this. Like, what is this? I've got a desk and I've got my chair and I've got my bed and I can leave anytime I want.
Yeah.
Run my business from wherever. I was like, that's a good idea. That's where it started. It's been going on since January. There's I guess the end date would be maybe a year.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that's gonna, dude. like the way that this is going, this could end up in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
And a year is really is so far to plan. Like,
Yeah.
I try to go by just a 2-month plan, if that. You know? But I'm just excited for your journey, man. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
So for you. You mentioned some of your roommates. Can we get just a kind of quick little blurbs on some of these people that you met along this journey? I'm so curious.
It all boils down to being open to all experiences. Jeremy was living with me for a while, and last July, I went to Europe for a month, which was a fantastic trip. I was able to work over there the entire time, which work, have fun and do it. But my goal was like, dude, I don't want to not be in the house if I'm paying for this lease. So I'm like, I gotta find somebody to sublease this place. And one of my now business partners' parents, last minute, like when I say last minute, 48 hours before I'm leaving on my trip to Europe, they called him and they were like, hey, we're moving from Hawaii and we want to come to Austin. Like whatever job they were working in didn't work out and they have to come now, tomorrow. And so 24 hours before I'm leaving, I haven't found anyone to sublease my place. And his parents come in, they're like 60, 65, older folks. And they're like, hey, we want to sublease the whole house. And not only that, we're going to take it through the end of the term, till January. I'm like, great. In 24 hours, I went from packing my bags to moving my crap out of the house. And so they came in while I was gone.
Yeah.
And she called me about 2 weeks into that. And she was like, Will, now listen, we love living here, but we don't need this much space. So if you want to come back, whenever you get back from Europe, when you come back, you can just come live with us. And so I was like, I don't have another option. Okay,
I guess that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my plan. And so when I got back, I didn't know what to expect. I was living with 2 folks that were significantly older than me. Fast forward 3 months, 4 months, we've been living together since then. Best roommates I've ever had.
Really?
The best room. They changed my life.
What about them?
The connection that we have, the spirit of both of them, of how they live their lives. They also live this life of going from city to city and not bringing things with you, just so non-materialistic, very holy people. It's a Jewish family. The mom is a rabbi. The dad is an entrepreneur, works from wherever.
Whoa.
Do some real estate stuff. And they are phenomenal individuals. And so society, just viewing this situation, it's a little uncomfortable to come back from being gone for a month and having a couple that's significantly older than you staying in your house. But it's even more uncomfortable to move in with them not knowing how that's going to turn out.
Yeah.
On paper. But being open to that experience was life-changing for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was really cool.
What about it? Was it just like the daily conversations? Was like the vibe? Like what?
I want to like get it. Okay, I'm just going to get into it.
Yeah, please. We're already here.
My type of people, they're relaxed, they're kind of hippie-ish. I also I get along with just like down to earth Southern culture type people. But when I met them, we share some of the same hobbies, you know. And one of the hobbies of Yoshi, who's the dad, he's a glass blower. He used to be a glass blower, and I don't know how to blow glass, but I like doing things with my hands, and so. He bought like $2,000 worth of glass blowing material. We had this propane tank that was 5 feet high, all these tools, and we put it in the garage. And we lived next to a preschool, so like we're in the garage blowing glass, like amazing pieces and jewelry and all this type of stuff. And like that created, I'm going to connect a point that we said at the beginning. Like, I don't know the creative outlets that I've never experienced before. And like seeing this glass, like these beautiful structures being blown, like opened my eyes to another outlet that I did not know existed. Yeah.
And a whole new approach to handiwork, right? Like, I mean, it's different, you know, it's an experience, a hammer, a nail, right? It's wood, but because I have a friend who, one of my best friends does glass blowing for like, not on that large of a scale, but on a smaller jewelry scale. So I never got a chance to do it, but just experiencing or seeing how it's done, it's almost like it's a different expression of creativity and beauty.
Yeah.
And it's just like in a video game, like an RPG where there's like a huge quest tree, right?
Yeah.
Of like almost unlimited skill. Like every discipline on this earth, man, like you could spend an entire lifetime glass blowing and still not be done with it, right?
Of course.
Same thing with swimming. Like, you know, like
you're just getting better along the way.
Just getting better. Is this gentleman, Yoshi, did he, was this his business or part of the business or just a hobby?
It was just for fun, man. Oh, man. He runs a drone business where they get hired on by these usually like counties, counties within a city, and they pay them to fly drones over the electric lines and survey them. And then like go do land surveys in the middle of nowhere, Utah. Like he's out there, man. Yeah. Like, that dude is so niche and so another person in my life that like came to me and was like, "Hey, you don't have to live like everyone else is living." And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's encouraged, and you're going to be way more free than you ever have felt in your entire life. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that's I think a lot of people hear that message, but not people really internalize it. Yeah. You know, and also just kind of taking that step of being different from society. Like it's like, okay, this is what everyone's doing, but it's like, hey, like we don't have to do all this.
No, the status quo does not have to be the standard of how people go about their life.
Yeah. I resonate with that a lot, just being a magician and being so weird from such a young age. It's like I got used very early on to just always do my own thing. Right? Drones is actually. I'm also a licensed drone pilot.
Are you?
Yeah. So part of the video business was we didn't do electrical lines, but we did surveying and like real estate insurance claims. Just stuff so that's just fun. Man, okay. So we got a little more time left, but tell me more. So just it is kind of drifting more into like philosophy and like goals. Like, I know it's a little. I'm not sure if goals is the right word, but maybe like aspirations or anything else you want to either add or remove from your life, like just. You know, will in like next year, right? Yeah. What's the state of being there? What's the
next year?
Or even just in the next hour, man.
In the next hour, I gotta get back. I'm feeding this dog that I'm taking care of right now. That's a good point because you caught me at like one of the most pivotal times in my life where I'm like really actually taking a step to doing what I want to do full time, and so I said like last night. I have this opportunity to do it, like kind of work at this other distillery right now. And last night I'm sitting down with my business partner and we're going through like all our financials and stuff. I'm like, taking a job is nice, but I don't know if I necessarily need to do that right now. And we kind of came to the conclusion that what we've been working towards for the past 2 years has led us to this point, and now it's time to blossom.
Yeah.
And so next year, I'm going to be. I don't use the word I think. I try not to because it incentivizes doubt. So next year, I'm going to be full. I mean, I already am, but I'm going to be successful doing my business full time. Yeah,
dude, I love it, man. Speak that into reality, live that into reality. Yeah,
and encouraging people along the way to do the same thing.
Yeah. And it's also a thing too. This is where I actually do want to get a little more insight here. Is I believe a lot of like trying your hardest and like visualizing goal and like going for it.
Yeah,
and it's also okay if it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Shoot for the star or shoot for the moon, land among the stars.
Something along those lines. Yeah. And for me, a big thing is, I can't remember where I read it, but it's something like we can only control the inputs, we can't control the outputs.
Yeah.
Right. I was thinking about the Oscars, right, just recently, and I think it was this Sunday, where so many of these actors and actresses are truly worthy of that prize, of that award, but it's also the fact that it's like limited, right?
Yeah.
But there's like a sense of luck and just a sense of so many things outside of our control that even if someone wins the Oscar, it doesn't mean the other person didn't win it as well. And does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because the performance was already Oscar worthy. Like,
right, it was there, man.
It was already there.
You're competing among the elite. It's the best of the best.
Yeah. And of course, like, because it doesn't make it any less meaningful to have won an Oscar.
Yeah.
But it doesn't negate, I believe, like the quality of the work. Like, I mean, you've probably seen that there's, I think it's like Morgan Freeman never won an Oscar. No, there's a lot of famous stars who've never won Oscars. Right?
Yeah.
So I just think about that too, where I love that we're actually filming this because you'll get a chance to look back at this.
Yeah.
6 months from now, a year from now, and be like, man, like I remember me being in this time where it's a little uncertain, right?
Totally uncertain, yeah.
But the emotion and the dream of something more,
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate you for all the awesome shit you done, man. It's
Thanks,
so
man.
cool. It's so cool.
Yeah,
so
I
cool.
love talking with you always, Rudy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're a very special person
Appreciate
in the best way. Yeah, and I can't wait to see where you go.
Dude, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Well,
and it takes a lot of hard work.
It does.
I know it does. I understand that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like we talked a lot about like mentally visualizing things, but before we go, I want to just make the point like nothing is possible without the hard work.
Yeah.
And you inspire me to work hard. All the other folks in our Toastmasters inspire me to work hard. Countless of individuals that have influenced my life. And hard work is the number one thing. Visualizing and believing in yourself is number two. Yeah. Putting in the time.
Dude, you're definitely the summation of all the people that have inspired you. Your roommates, your coaches, your competitors, right? In
Absolutely,
the sport. Business partners as well. So I'm down. I'm so glad to connect with such an awesome human being. Can't wait to do this again, man.
Thanks,
I think that's about all the time we have. And any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to wrap this up with in your own time?
No, but I'm very excited about the room that we're sitting in right now. This makes me so happy. Rudy is a very humble individual. He doesn't share everything he has going on in his life, and I learned something new about him over the past few days. And it's really cool to sit in this room. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. I'm gonna wrap it up there for now. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.